The techniques and hacks displayed in this program are done by professionals under controlled conditions. Attempt at your own risk.
You can't outrun a tornado, and you can't outdrive it either. If you don't have time to get indoors, your best bet is to find the lowest area possible. During a tornado, trees and cars will be whipped right up, turning them into dangerous projectiles. This is why you don't stay in your car. By definition, emergencies happen when you don't expect them. Cut off from power, no water, limited resources. And the knowledge I have might just save your life.
I'm Brian Brushwood, and I've picked up the tools of scientists and spies, of criminals and con artists. I've mastered incredible tricks and dangerous stunts as a professional magician. Now I have an encyclopedia of shortcuts, secret data, and helpful hacks designed to help you make life easier and give you the upper hand. This is Hacking the System.
For the vast majority of us, it's not a question of if, but when disaster touches our lives. Earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, even a terrorist attack can keep you cut off for days at a time.
In 2013, our planet experienced some 880 major natural disasters. According to estimates, the damages for those catastrophes totaled $125 billion and took the lives of nearly 20,000 individuals.
Now, there's no alternative for planning ahead, but if you do find yourself in a disaster that you didn't prepare for, there are plenty of hacks you can perform around the house to help keep you and your family alive. Knowing how to make the most out of what you have at hand can mean the difference between life and death when catastrophe strikes. I'm in this typical suburban home, and for the next few days, I'm going to deal with this emergency situation using only stuff that's already on hand. This house and its contents will be my lifeline.
When you're in an emergency situation, you have to prioritize your needs. The rule of 3 helps you make these decisions. Your body can survive without oxygen for about 3 minutes. You can live 3 hours in extreme weather without shelter. You can go 3 days without water and 3 weeks without food. When you remember this rule, you'll know where to focus your resources during a crisis.
Well, it's already dark, so my top priority is finding a source of light. Speaking of which, if you've been hit with a tornado or an earthquake, make sure you do not strike a match until you check for a gas leak. Oftentimes, the gas lines get damaged. And something tells me this rinky-dink guy is not gonna cut it for the night. Luckily, in the pantry are the parts for a longer-term solution. Perfect. Sardines. Personally, I hate them, but they're packed in fish oil, which means we can make a long-burning oil lamp. Just by cracking this open a bit, and we just need a wicking. There we go. I'm gonna take this piece of cotton wick straight off of that mop. I'm gonna mush it down, get that oil all over it. And, yeah! The whole house is gonna smell terrible, but at least we'll have light throughout the night.
Speaking of light, here's something interesting. Which fruit can be used to power an LED light? Is it a coconut, a dragon fruit, or a lemon? The answer is a lemon. Citrus fruits generate their own electron-producing acids that can actually be used to power LEDs.
Fire is an invaluable resource in an emergency. From cooking your food to purifying your water, you need the ability to start a fire. And if you don't have matches or a lighter, you might have a method in your pocket right now: your cell phone battery. Remove your cell phone battery, and you're gonna touch these terminals to some steel wool. It should give you a spark. If your cell phone doesn't have a removable battery, check your junk drawer. You might have a 9-volt, which will work even better. Once you have that heat, a little bit of lint, you got an easy fire in no time.
Starting a fire is useful, but if the temperature's dropping, you might need to safely contain that fire to keep warm.
In this case, we got a couple of paint cans. Make sure one is small enough to fit inside the other, a bottle of isopropyl alcohol, and of course, toilet paper. We're gonna start by taking the tube out of the toilet paper, and this gives us one giant cotton sponge that we can wedge inside the smaller of the two cans. Here's the crazy part. Once you light it, it's not the toilet paper that's gonna burn. The toilet paper is there just to act as a wick. Now we'll pour this entire bottle of alcohol in there, and it should soak it up almost as fast as you can pour it. Finally, take the smaller can, put it inside the bigger can, light it. It's not exactly a bonfire, but it's portable, it'll keep you warm, and it can burn for up to 5 hours. Make sure you don't leave it unsupervised. And to regulate the oxygen flow, you can place the lid on, or you can put the flame out entirely just by covering it up. Without power. Now I'm getting worried. It's time to take inventory and find out what resources we have at hand. Well, this isn't good. In a major disaster, your supply of clean water could be cut off. Obviously, water is essential to survival, and we need about a half gallon per day to survive. By the rule of 3, after 3 days without water, you risk serious injury or death. Finding clean water just became my #1 priority. It may seem gross, but the water inside the tank of your toilet can be totally safe to drink, as long as it's clear and there's no cleaning chemicals in it. A toilet can have up to 5 gallons of water in it, enough to keep somebody hydrated for a full week. Since I have no idea how long I'll be without water, it's important to collect more before my situation goes from bad to worse. So I've started to collect water from the trees. Trees transpire water. It evaporates right out of their leaves. By tying a bag tightly around a branch, you could collect a few ounces of water a day. This water could be filtered, and the best part, you could do it day after day, and it won't hurt the trees. If you have a large family, or if you're without water for an extended period, you might have reserves and not even know it. Check out your hot water heater. Using a garden hose, we can hook it up to the spigot at the bottom. This unit has over 50 gallons of water. That's enough to take care of a family of 4 for up to 30 days or longer. Woo! That's 50 gallons of crisp, clean, life-saving water.
But say you have a modern water heater that doesn't contain water, then what?
When water is scarce and you're in an extreme emergency, can you and should you drink your own urine? It's the classic survivalist question. In an extreme emergency, can you and should you drink your own urine? The answer is yes and no. If you're truly desperate, it'll buy you a day or two. But remember, while urine is 95% water, it's also 5% waste. After just a few days of returning the waste your body's trying to excrete back into your system, you could develop symptoms similar to kidney failure. Lucky for me, they had some apple juice. Now that I have water in place for the time being, it's time to assess the food situation. The power outage knocked out the fridge, which means that several foods run the risk of spoiling. We need to figure out which of these foods to eat now, which to throw out, and which can be repurposed for extended storage. First and foremost, keep the doors to your fridge and freezer closed whenever possible. If you have advanced warning of an emergency, like with a hurricane, turn them to the lowest setting possible to build up a cold reserve. Food in the freezer should stay at least partially frozen for a day or two. And get this, the more cold food you have packed in your freezer, the longer it'll stay cool.
Check this out. In 2006, 3 Mexican fishermen were found adrift at sea. How long do you think they survived? Was it 9 weeks, 19 weeks, or 9 months? The answer is 9 months. They drifted over 5,000 miles, surviving on raw fish, sea turtles, and rainwater.
Foodborne illness can quickly take a bad situation and make it much, much worse. And nothing's gonna spoil faster than uncooked meat. If you have access to a grill, cook that meat immediately. If you don't have access to a grill, you can make your own using soda cans. We'll cut the bottom out of one. Now we need to add vent holes using an awl. I'm making 8 vents. Beautiful. So we got 8 vents here. Now we need to cut this thing off. We'll just match it to roughly the size of duct tape. Now we're gonna do the exact same thing with the other can. There we go. Now eventually these two go together, but first we need to make the dividing wall between the inner chamber and the outer chamber. Then you're gonna lock it in just by stapling it. I'm gonna set this in there like so. Finally, we're gonna take the vented top and nestle it right inside. Perfect. We're gonna put some isopropyl alcohol in there. Man, I'm so excited. I wanna know if this works. Now you'll notice at first it starts off very blue and dim, but as everything heats up, that vapor is gonna start heating up and coming out of these vents, and it should look just like your gas grill at home. Yeah, it's just starting to reach on the side now. Look at that, man. Now that you have a way to cook your food, your best options are to either eat it right away or get it refrigerated below 40 degrees within the next 2 hours. This won't guarantee your food safety, but it will help reduce the risk. A power outage starts a ticking clock on your dairy items as well. There's not much you could do about the milk or the cottage cheese, short of wolfing them down. But you can preserve some of your cheese for later by dipping them in wax. You don't even need special wax. You can use unscented candles, or I'm melting down crayons. Be extremely careful around the hot wax. It splashes easily and it'll stick to your skin. Now that it's sealed in wax, I've extended the life of this cheese. If I did my job right, it can last for years without spoiling.
Good cheese can last a long time. But what's the longest period of time that cheese has aged? Is it 3,600 years, 103 years, or 13 years? The answer is 3,600 years. Researchers identified clumps of cheese on top of a mummy buried in a Chinese sand dune. Unfortunately, they didn't find any crackers to go with the oldest cheese in history.
At this point in my ordeal, my family would be gravely worried about me. Power's out. I have a dead cell phone. I need to figure out a way to charge this so I can put a call out. There's a bunch of different options to charge your phone during a power outage, but the best one is sitting in your driveway. Your car has plenty of power to charge your phone so you can make a call. Just make sure to conserve your fuel and battery power in case you need to flee the area. But my favorite way to charge a phone uses a car charger, a 9-volt battery, and a quarter. Check this out. You're gonna plug your phone into the car charger, place the tip of the car charger onto the positive terminal. Then, with the coin, bridge the remaining connection, and you're charging. How cool is that?
All right, what was the deadliest natural disaster in U.S. history? Was it Hurricane Katrina in 2005? The Galveston Hurricane of 1900, or the Johnstown Flood in 1889. All three caused catastrophic damage, but the Galveston Hurricane is believed to have taken the lives of 6,000 to 12,000 people when it obliterated the Texan island in 1900. There's just no containing the power of Mother Nature.
2 days of being virtually cut off from society. Fortunately, I found water and was able to extend my food supply, but some of it's already starting to spoil. This is exactly the kind of situation where you need to consider the possibility of leaving the safety of your house.
been without power now for 48 hours. And there's no word on when it'll come back or what's happening in the outside world. Time for me to leave my house in search of supplies. There might be government aid or chaos and disorder.
If there's a run on supplies, you might be looking at civil unrest, and the authorities might need to control the masses. We're talking tear gas, pepper spray, smoke bombs. Amazingly, though, you can build your own protective mask using little more than 2-liter bottles. Start with a stenciled template in order to cut out the part that'll go on your face. Then you're gonna line the sides with foam and duct tape. This will make it more comfortable and give a tighter seal. Next up, we'll do the filter. For the housing, I took an old soda can and poked a bunch of holes in it. On top of that, just put 2 or 3 cotton pads. And to absorb the chemicals, we'll put a couple of spoonfuls of activated charcoal in there.
You could find activated charcoal in a bunch of different places throughout your house, like the water filtration in your fish tank, your medicine cabinet, or even in your odor-protecting insoles.
Finally, a couple more pads to keep everything in place, and then we'll seal it off with a bandage on top. Finally, we take the top from another 2-liter bottle, seal the whole thing in tape, and if all goes well, you have a chance of protection. A word of warning, while these masks are popular with political protesters, there's no proven evidence of how well they work. But if you ask me, I'd feel safer with this rather than nothing.
If you do happen to get sprayed with tear gas during civil unrest, what common items can you use to diffuse the effects? Is it antacid, toothpaste, or lemons? The answer is all 3. Mixing equal parts antacid with water and spraying it in your eyes, or smearing toothpaste underneath them, or even breathing through a lemon-soaked rag will all help to neutralize tear gas solution and reduce any eye or breathing irritation.
When the situation gets desperate enough, it is insane to see some of the improvised weaponry people have come up with. For light armor, sometimes people will take phone books and tiles, tape them all together, cover the whole thing in duct tape, and then strap it onto your body. I have no idea how well this would work, and to be honest, I'd be scared to find out. In a close quarters situation, you might need to keep an attacker at bay. For that, some people will take lumber connectors and hot glue a bunch of nails in there. People will even make a bow and arrow out of the simplest stuff. In this case, with just PVC pipe and a string, you're good to go. The arrows are made of just wooden dowels. I want to know if this actually works. I've never actually done archery. Whoa! I am a lousy shot, but that would be terrifying in real life.
Of course, I'm not advocating you take all this stuff and go out on the streets during a riot because, well, you'd look like this. And that really would be terrifying. But I do have a practical hack that could help you with unwanted intruders. You just need a willing test subject.
Oh, you're cooking. I guess there's a recipe involved. So we know that pepper spray is an effective deterrent. Turns out you can make homemade pepper spray, and with just stuff you'd find in the kitchen. I'm not gonna share the recipe that we're doing here, but it does use some oil, some vinegar, and all the gnarliest peppers I was able to find. I chopped them up super fine, blended them right in here. Take a whiff.
Oh, no.
Now, let me state unequivocally that it is inherently dangerous to mess around making your own homemade pepper spray, and nobody should make pepper spray and test it on their friend's face. It's not as bad. Oh, it's sneaking up now. They say that if you get pepper sprayed, you should remain calm, get to fresh air, and you have to wash out your eyes, nose. God, I can't even talk. And wash out your eyes, nose, and mouth with fresh water. Oh, let's never do that again.
Agreed. You can see what just that little bit did. This is not something to mess around with. If you can stay in a place where people will know where to find you, that might be the safest thing to do. But how will they know that you're there?
Here's a hack that'll help you alert them to your whereabouts using stuff you'd find around the house. We're gonna make homemade smoke flares. started by mixing plain sugar with potassium nitrate, aka saltpeter, which can be made from stump remover or a cold compress. Mix the two together over heat, and for a container, I used one of these cells from a rechargeable drill battery. Poured the mixture into the casing, added a homemade fuse, and now this bad boy is ready to go. Don't forget, handling potassium nitrate is not without risks, so make sure to exercise extreme caution. Woo! Yeah, they are not gonna miss that.
Here's a disaster that was hard to miss. How many people were affected by the biggest power outage in recent history? Was it 6 million, 60 million, or 600 million? It was an incredible 600 million people. On July 31st, 2012, a power failure in India left half the country without power, causing a massive collapse in infrastructure.
In a severe catastrophe, medical supplies can be limited. Now picture this. You've raided your first aid kit, you don't have the supplies you need, and then you get a nasty gash. You might have to improvise. In a pinch, some doctors have used duct tape to seal up a wound and protect it from the outside elements. Or even better, with the right kind of super glue, you can actually reseal the wound. Now, it's not an ideal solution, and it can damage skin cells, but in a severe situation, closing the wound could mean the difference between living and dying. Amazingly, this gives a rough seal in just seconds. It's important to thoroughly clean the wound before trying this. It's not my first option, but in a disaster, you go with what you can.
Hallelujah! Almost 72 hours cut off from water, gas, and electricity.
FEMA recommends that you have enough food, water, and supplies to last your family through this crucial period. I managed to kind of muddle my way, scavenging, hacking, and scrounging, but I don't recommend it. I think the lesson here is simple. While you can muddle your way through a catastrophe, you're much better off preparing for the worst. Now I gotta check my email.